Hello everyone, welcome to Random Encounter 351 or 351. My name is John O'Logan and I just started a new job. And that means that my brain is absolute pudding right now. You know that feeling, you're at your new job, you're in training sessions, you're learning lots of people's names, you're learning lots of new procedures, and then just by the end of the week, your brain has just stopped functioning entirely as an organ. That's sort of where mine is right now. I tried to unwind to play some video games last night, and just even video games, my brain was like, yeah, we're not doing this. We're not engaging on any conceivable level right now. But thankfully, I've recovered slightly throughout my Saturday, so I have at least it's still pudding, but it's a firmer consistency of pudding. So let's see what happens in today's episode. Joining us today are Audra.
Hello.
And Zach.
Hello.
Out of curiosity, when was the last time either of you had that feeling of, oh my God, too much training, too much information?
Probably about 3 months ago when I had a large training session for the yearly safety and just general office safety training. That's always interesting. It's like 5 hours worth of content that they try to get you to go through all in one day.
5 hours just straight is a little much. For me, it was the last training session on Thursday, and everything seemed to be fine up till then. And I was sitting in the training session, I was listening to what they were saying intently, like I was genuinely paying attention. And then after about 10 minutes, I realized that I had absolutely no memory of what had been said in the last 10 minutes. And I was like, wait, that's weird. I was paying attention. Okay, let's pay attention some more. And then by the end of it, I was like, I'm real glad these things are getting recorded because I do not have a memory of what just happened. Well, I've been having trouble playing games because of, training, how exhausted I am right now. But there are two folks on here who do not have any problems playing games right now. So, Audra, you have been playing Granblue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok. Endless being the term that was used to describe the period of development for Granblue Fantasy Relink. This was a game that was on our most anticipated list for several years running, including, I believe, 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And then it kind of became a running joke with us that I would make Des write the most anticipated blurb every year for this game until finally you got to review it in January of last year, giving it a 92. So it was actually worth the wait. It originally started out as as Granblue Fantasy. It was a mobile title back in 2014, I think. And then 10 years later, the sequel edition came out. And it was a pretty big success. And so they've given it some DLC called Endless Ragnarok. Considering that it was developed in 2 years as compared to the, 10 years that the original was, that's a pretty good turnaround there, I think. So, Audra, first off, I'm curious, did you get to play Granblue Fantasy Relink when it was released?
No, this is my first time playing the main storyline too.
Okay, well, before we jump into the DLC then, why don't we ask you, how do you like it?
I really enjoyed it. It's the story itself is kind of typical. It's like a JRPG that's kind of all JRPGs.
It's capital JRPG.
Yes, but it's like fun. It has like this sense of adventure, and the gameplay is just amazing too. It's just solid action RPG gameplay, and then they have like different like things you have to do in the fights and the dungeons, and there's even like, I don't want to say icon battles like for FF16 fans, but there are a few that you actually do like fight using giant summons. It's just very, very, very polished and very cool.
See, that's the thing. I actually don't mind when something is, I'm going to use the word generic, but I don't necessarily mean generic. I think you know what I mean. Bog standard, as long as it is executed extremely well.
And this one, like the characters are all great. The music is solid. The gameplay is awesome.
Yeah, it's just a really solid title.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the, did you play it on which platform do you play it on?
I played it on the Steam Deck, actually.
How did it perform?
It performed pretty well. After I noticed a little bit of lag at the hub towns at first, and then they've updated since then, and it hasn't had any lagging at all. Even when they did like the heavy high-end FMVs and action sequences and stuff, it plays fine. Actually, probably better than like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and some other ones that I've played.
I really like when it plays on the Steam Deck pretty much out of the box because, the fact that it does means that its availability is much more widespread, but also it means that the platform is doing very, very well. Even if their current PR is not with the Steam Machine debacle with their pricing. I feel sorry for them about that. Like, I actually, when they released their statement, it was their damage control saying that, this is not the price we wanted to release it at. Normally when a company releases that kind of thing, I'm like, yeah. This time I actually bought it and I was like, yeah, I totally believe that you guys kind of got screwed by the RAM situation, just as we all did. Mind you, that their customers are getting screwed more than they did, but at the very least, when they gave an excuse, I was like, yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, I think it was bad timing in general.
It's going to be worse this fall with Apple's releasing like a bunch of new products, and it's going to be like, oh, no one's going to be able to afford those ever. Okay, so pretty box standard RPG for the base game. So what is the situation with this new DLC? How does it expand upon that? Does it take it in any new directions?
It kind of expands the story a little bit. You get some new characters that some of them even you can gain access to them in the main storyline, like Eustace, and he was actually pretty much a mainstay in my party for most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get like something called the Conflux, which is like a roguelite material gathering side mission area that you can go to occasionally. It opens up in the main story and it keeps getting more powerful for you to collect resources with as you progress in the game. And then they have like a new summoning mechanic and new difficulties for the quests in general, so that you can actually get even harder challenges, but they managed to still be quite fun.
So they didn't just introduce a bunch of new like story content. There's some actual new mechanical content here as well. That's nice to hear. I mean, I'm glad that they spent those 2 years. Apparently the many years they spent developing the core game paid off. If they have that much, if they can, it would have been, let me put it this way. I expected there to be a sequel, not a DLC. And the fact that they released this is a good sign, I feel, that they feel at least somewhat secure in how this game did.
Yes, I'd say it's probably it's a bit meatier, actually, than the main storyline game. I'd say it's like about maybe twice as long.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In terms of content. So it's fairly substantial.
Okay, that's actually great.
I think it's very encouraging for people who were either like me and didn't buy the original game. It kind of encourages you to pick it up and see just what they added to it. And then, yeah, if you're a returning player, it's like, hey, you get all this extra stuff that you can do and enjoy now. So it kind of just encourages replayability a lot better, I think.
I actually, as a gamer, I always prefer to, I mean, obviously you want to play a game when it comes out because it's very, very exciting. Yes. But like the games that you don't play and they eventually like 2 years later, they get a good piece of DLC and then you play them. I much prefer that experience because it's so annoying to beat a game and then 2 years later jump into the DLC and then be like, oh, this is end game stuff and I've forgotten how to play.
Well, I think this one, because so much of it, a lot of the content was end game already, it kind of just fits nicely into it. You can't start it until you actually finish the chapter 0, which is the last of the main story content before endgame.
So this is pure endgame content then. It's not like you can't just jump in midway through.
They have like a few things like you can open up the conflux that you can start like material gathering and stuff earlier on. And some of the characters you can actually get to join earlier. It's almost like a gacha mechanic where you can get like crewmate cards and then you can like recruit people.
So some of the mechanics do spill into the main game?
Mm-hmm.
Neat. I actually really like when that happens. So, like we said, you can't jump right into this. You need to play the base game. Are there any new quality of life features in the game itself? Not just in terms of the mechanics, but just in terms of like, I don't know, in terms of like the UI or stuff like that. Did you notice anything that improved? Between the two, I mean, like you played the base game and you played the DLC. I'm assuming at this point they're pretty much equal.
I'm pretty sure they kind of just integrated a lot of it into the base game already. So I didn't really notice too much of it. The summoning mechanic definitely opens up during the Endless Ragnarok.
Okay.
once you get to those quests at the end of Chapter 0. And they do have like a new way to upgrade weapons that also end, so that you can take your end game weapons further. But other than that, I feel like they incorporated a lot of it more into kind of very seamlessly into the main storyline game. So I didn't really notice as much that there was like a huge, all of a sudden everything seemed different.
Something that I have heard about Granblue Fantasy Relink is that there are some pretty good boss battles. As an action RPG, you would hope that's the case. Do you find a real difference between the quality of the boss battles in the base game and the DLC, or was it pretty much equal? And I mean, also, I'm just curious, like, how can I put this? Because it is technically end game content, I guess, were there like recurring bosses that you seen earlier? Like, was there any content reuse essentially?
There are some bosses that get reused from like the main story. You can actually, there's a couple that they show up in the main story and then you fight like higher level versions of them later on in the quests. And I
really like asset reuse. Good asset reuse is actually one of my favorite things in games.
And you fight like a lot of the primeval beasts quite often, regularly throughout the game. And I mean, I thought they did a great job making the fights feel different still and more. It's definitely harder, but like you've kind of leveled up already. Ideally, you want to be around like level 100 for Endless Ragnarok content. So you've learned the basics of the game and stuff. So it's like it's adding challenge to it without it being like pulling the rug out from under you, hopefully.
With the new mechanics, I expect that there's also some expanded character builds. How did you feel the character build development, I guess, was throughout the game?
I really enjoyed the characters in general. I played a lot of the more, I don't want to say like end game characters as often, but I had a few that stayed in my party once I got them that they were powerhouses. And actually, although one of my earlier on characters, Rosetta, she pretty much was powerful throughout, and I had her in the party through the whole way through. So I think like they did a good job balancing people. Everyone plays very differently, and everyone has like new skills and stuff. And as you go, you get more like accessories that you can equip to them that give them more stronger traits and status boosts. And I had a pretty good time just experimenting with different party builds.
Outside of this game and above the table, a question for both of you, because I'm curious if I'm alone in this. Whenever you're in a game an RPG especially, that has party mechanics, you build your party, they go around with you, do you default to the strongest team, or do you default to your favorite characters, narratively speaking? And you're just like, you have like, I don't know, in your end game party, you have like 3 powerhouses, and then you have like one person who technically you shouldn't have in the party, really speaking. They should have been left on the airship, but you took them with you because you like them. They're a good person.
Ideally, I would say both, because I think party balance is a factor. Like if one character is just significantly weaker than everyone else, then that's probably, like I would probably mention that in a review, because I think you should be able to use your favorite party members. I think like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an example. I think every single character there has very high potential, and as long as you like know how to use their toolkit, you can like do any fight with any party composition. I think that's the best way to like balance characters.
Actually, I agree. I think that, I mean, especially with this game, all the characters, I mean, they had very unique fighting styles, a lot of them. Like if they were a mage versus if they were a long-range fighter, or if they were like a full frontal melee tank character. I felt like all of them have so much potential as far as fights go, and there's even like, they call them fate episodes, where once you recruit characters, you can actually play as them individually and have them be the leader of the party for a while just to kind of experiment with them. And I think I like that a lot because it just showcased how really fundamentally powerful all of them could be if you put the time into actually leveling them up.
True, and it does depend on the character build that you do throughout the game and how that slots into your endgame party.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was just a little side tangent. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned you get to fight big summon kaiju battles. What are those like here? And I guess how do they compare to the ones in 16?
I feel like they actually don't drag on as long as some of the ones in 16 could. And there was just more, they felt kind of even more like epic in a way, like more interactive with you instead of just more like I feel like the FF16 was maybe a little more trying to be cinematic in a lot of them.
Later Final Fantasy games trying to be cinematic, say it ain't so.
But this one, I felt like, I mean, they really try to do like an action RPG fighting game almost, kind of you doing the combos, and so I really like them.
You'd have direct control of them, right?
Yes.
Which, as compared to, I haven't played 16 yet. I'm assuming 16 is not direct control of the character, of the kaijus, I guess, or the summons.
It's pretty much you are, but then there's like, they have like massive HP pools, and you usually have to like do certain things to get to the enemy before you can even fight them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, it's like if they do it, it felt like it was more organically interwoven. Like you have, when two of the dragons are fighting, you have like things where you have to dodge like area effect attacks and stuff. And I just feel like it was more, I don't know, it felt faster paced to me.
That's not a bad thing in an action RPG.
Mm-mm.
Well, talking about slower pace, and frankly, some people love it, some people don't like it. I'm actually fairly neutral about it. I've read there's crafting mechanics in this game, technically, as you have to like, basically you kind of have to grind for raw materials and stuff like that.
Yes.
How painful is it in this? Or is it actually pretty well balanced?
It's pretty well balanced, especially with the Conflux, which is like a roguelite dungeon area that you can go to and just farm materials through that. It's not the worst one I've ever seen. And I managed to get like a lot of weapons up to like the level 100 and 125 max levels pretty easily.
I don't know how this works. I've read about it. I don't know how it works. I have read that the game does have an assist combat mode function. Is that just on by default, or how exactly does that work in game?
You have to access, I think it's the story difficulty mode, or maybe one of the, like when you're picking your difficulty modes, they'll have a prompt that says you can have either assist mode, which is more if you're not confident in like your combo developing skills, you can just move like the direction D-pad and it'll like automatically kind of go into a lot of the moves. Or you can have like half, like not, I don't know what they called it. It was like a half assist mode. And that's more where you just press like one or two buttons at a time to initiate combos instead of having the like full having to do like a button shortcut combo system. I tried it for a little bit. It's not terrible. I think it does help especially if you're maybe a little not as confident at first.
I think it's one of those features that should be included in games and should be included in these games, because it does open up the number of people who can play it and have fun doing it greatly if they want to care about the story. But also, just because there's an assist mode doesn't necessarily mean that the actual mechanics of combat will not still be engaging. Oh, no, it's still very much fun trying. I mean, like even just trying to get around the battlegrounds and stuff can be really entertaining. I also read that they can be that not just they can be disabled, but they are disabled in certain situations. Yes. How does that work? It's just that there are certain battles where they're like, okay, you can't really do that now, so just try to do your best. I mean, in the prologue in particular, they wanted you to practice using the dodging and the guarding and stuff, so they kind of disabled the assist modes to have you kind of where it's like, I guess, lower risk. So it's very much a throw you into the deep end of the pool head first to learn how to swim. Mm-hmm. But with a lifeguard there to keep you from drowning. Yeah, well, that's always important. You know, good parenting involves lifeguards, I imagine. Not that I am one, a lifeguard or a parent. I really, really am glad you enjoyed this game. How would you say your experience as a whole was? Like, this is actually really difficult. this is actually kind of a difficult question to ask because you experienced it as a whole because you didn't have prior experience with Granblue Fantasy Relink. If you could like mentally separate the experience of Granblue Fantasy Relink and Endless Ragnarok, how would you summarize the DLC just as a standalone by itself piece of content?
It is great as an extension of the game itself. I probably would not, because the way they do like the quests and stuff and how they advance the story, I didn't like it quite as much as the main story from that progression stance. Because there's just more of like a rhythm to the, whereas you have to do like a series of quests and then you get like a cutscene or a. But I mean, I actually thought it was a very fun expansion.
Yeah, I always feel like a good piece of DLC for a game like this. It shouldn't be a sequel, but it should be trying it. This is just my opinion as, you know, as a reviewer, but I like when they could basically use the DLC as a beta version of some of the mechanics that they're going to be putting into the sequel, because it gives them a chance to work it out, see what happens in a slightly less like make or break kind of way. So with that in mind, do you think that some of the mechanics that were obviously in the DLC are likely to be expanded upon in the sequel as like core gameplay mechanics?
I think so. I especially think like the summoning mechanic will come back as it's too fun, and it kind of opens up very much a possibility that the main game didn't really go into as much from a gameplay stance. So beyond like scripted events. So I feel like, I think it'll bring in some. I mean, there's always like room for adventure and stuff, and that's kind of even how the story goes in the game. So I'm like, I can kind of see a lot of it be woven into a sequel.
I hope it gets a sequel, and I hope we don't get it in 2036. I mean, God, the idea that even 2030 exists, the idea that 2036 exists as a concept is a little bit disturbing to me. But yeah, hopefully we get something new from them in relatively the near future. That would be great.
It definitely would. There's a lot of potential in this gameverse, I think.
Well, it's nice when a game series has potential to build upon, as opposed to a game series that has finished that potential a long time ago and at this point is just banging its head against a tower. And with that, we're going to talk about Echoes of Aincrad. Zek, you reviewed this, and as opposed to Audra's very positive experience with Endless Ragnarok, your experience with Aincrad was not as positive, to put it mildly. Let me give the audience a little bit of background on this. So technically speaking, this is a entry in the Sword Art Online franchise. This originated as an anime series in 2012. And the basic idea of it, unless I've never seen it, unless I miss my guess, is that there is a virtual reality MMORPG. And when people put their VR headsets on, it kind of sinks to their brain. And if they die in game, they die in the real world. And they are forced to climb a 100-level tower to try to win, to try to get out. So this was a pretty big sensation. And then it eventually got, not eventually, the next year, it got a adaptation on the PSP called Infinity Moment. And since then, there have been lots of them: Hollow Fragment, Lost Song, Hollow Realization. It eventually concluded its long-running narrative thread in 2023 with Last Recollection. And since then, the series has pivoted into more standalone experiences. And I do have to say that, not that I want to throw shade or anything, but the game hasn't exactly been reviewed the best at RPG Fan. The entire series thus far is, I wouldn't say it's the worst in the world, but we're looking at like the highest it ever got is an 80, but we are looking at, I think, 160 and a 50. And then, of course, this is a new entry into the 50 club. So, Zek, you mentioned that Echoes of Aincrad reminded you of the PS3 era of RPGs. And frankly speaking, your review kind of reflects back on that era, and you're like, oh, maybe things are better now and we shouldn't go back.
So when I make that comparison, I'm talking about the general issues with that generation as a whole, because I recognize that every generation has great games, right? Like games that kind of buck the trend, but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about kind of the general like experimental aspects of the generation. I think they focused on like, oh, like we have HD graphics now, right? But the gameplay loop is like has some issues. Like if you think I don't know, like White Knight Chronicles, like that game had its fans, but it didn't like review that well at the time. And this game has some of those same issues, but worse.
I mean, I'm looking at screenshots here. The only thing I can really say about it is at least it isn't brown like a lot of PS3 games.
Yeah, they did a good job with the like anime aesthetic. Like it looks like an upscale PS3 game, but with better like color variety. I think that makes a big difference.
What's your experience with the series overall? I'm not just talking about the games either. I mean, have you seen the anime? Like, what is your experience with Sword Art Online?
So I've only watched the first season, and I heard from others that like the anime went downhill after that. So I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I understand the story like well enough to kind of review the game like in that aspect. Because this game's it's based on I would say the first half of the first season, which is genuinely very interesting. Like the very beginning was interesting when it sets up the premise of like, now you are in this world. Like it's you, right? You are stuck in this world and like you have to climb 100 floors.
Well, because unlike in other games in the series, previous games, this really is you create your own custom character. So you're not following the storyline of the series protagonists. This is you.
Yes, and I found that very interesting. But as I mentioned in the review, it doesn't go anywhere. Like when you find out like you're stuck, like if you die, that's it, right? Like I remember your party members are basically like, well, we just have to climb 100 floors. Like there's no gravity to the situation that you probably like people won't make it out alive. Like most people don't get to the end.
Yeah, there's 100% no chance that a group of this many people, when told you have to beat the game or die, wouldn't immediately freak the fuck out.
Yeah, it's just like there's such a disconnect between like the gravity of the story and like the premise of the anime that like it just doesn't go anywhere.
It's really interesting to me that they dropped the branding of Sword Art Online. Like, arguably, it's because maybe they're trying to separate themselves from the anime or from the games earlier in the series. But it doesn't look like they've actually, I guess, replaced that branding with anything. Like, Echoes of Aincrad, if you don't know what it is one of the most generic titles of an RPG I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious about reviewing this because like I enjoyed reviewing games that have, pros and cons. Like it doesn't always have to be great, but obviously I would like to review a better game. But
Zach, you like to review interesting games, whether or not they are necessarily good or bad. Obviously you want to play better games, but interesting is something that really gets to you when you're writing a review.
Yeah, I think that if I'm curious about something, right, like I would be interested in reviewing it. And sometimes it's a great game and sometimes it's not. But I think that's part of the whole process, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, it sounds like this is in many ways somewhat similar to Relink in that it's a fairly bog standard RPG mechanic, which involves go to town, get stronger, upgrade equipment, go to town, get stronger, upgrade equipment. But unlike Relink, it doesn't seem to do anything. It doesn't seem to do it particularly well.
So, in a lot of RPGs, when you start off, like you're fighting, like weak enemies, like just like a slime, a wolf, or whatever, right? And then as you progress to the end, you start fighting much stronger enemies. Like even random enemies are a lot stronger, right? Because this game only has 2 floors, you never get to that point. By the end of the game, you're still fighting the same weak enemies that you fought at the beginning because you're only on floor 2 by the time the credits roll.
Sorry, do they expect to make 50 of these things? Like, they only do 2 floors in the game?
So there is no progression because you don't get anywhere, right? It's like if you play an RPG and there's only 2 areas in the game, like you won't get anywhere by the end.
Like, I admire their optimism that they think that the next 49 games are going to have 2 stories each, but like that seems like it's storytelling not at its best.
And they do so much padding in just those 2 floors. I wish they just have more floors instead of like just the same thing over and over again.
See, that's my nightmare. My nightmare is not getting stuck in a game where if I die in the game, I die. My nightmare would be getting stuck in a game where if I die, and the game is bad. Like, that would suck if you were just in like a jank fest game and your life was on the line.
And your party members, like, it doesn't seem to register to them. I think they mentioned once that like, oh, this is dangerous, we might actually die. Like, most of the time they just go straight into like the most dangerous places, like the labyrinths, the raids. And there's one raid in the game. You and your party just kind of stay in the back and just like fight the ads. Like, you don't even fight the boss because it was supposed to be a story moment where just some random people who you don't even know fight the boss, and some of them die. It's like, oh no, they're dead, but you don't even know who they are. Like, you don't even know their names.
That eliminates any possible impact on that happening.
Yeah, and then like in the very next scene, like they just don't discuss anymore. Like, it's so jarring.
They're like, moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one of those weird moments.
And that's a real shame, because I can genuinely see there being significant impact into this having a significant impact. Like, imagine if you were to, you introduce the story, you gather together your party, maybe you go to 2 towns, and then one of your party members dies permanently. Like that, after you put some time and effort into leveling them up to that point and equipping them and building them up, that would be interesting, because that would automatically like hammer it in. Oh, you can die story-wise. But the fact that like random NPCs are dying around you has no impact. NPCs die all the time. Who cares? Yeah, and from a gameplay perspective, they kind of, obviously they can't have permadeath for your party members. So like if they run out of health, they're just exhausted. Like, they just get tired, which I guess is the only way to do it from like a more like canon perspective. A lot of the design of this game is a solid throwback to the 2010s era, and not necessarily in a good way. What would you say the core game? So the core gameplay loop is take a mission, defeat a monster, gather materials, return to town to upgrade your equipment, repeat. And this is that's the game, just over and over and over again? Yes, and most missions don't have like any real story at all. And if you accept a quest, like most of the quests are from NPCs, but like in-game NPCs, as in like you know that they're an NPC, like not a player, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does. And like they have very scripted outcomes, obviously, and there's like no story involved, because they just tell you to like kill this wolf, and then that's a mission. There's one mission where you just start at the very like right before the end of the mission, so you just take 2 steps, and that's the entire mission. And your party member even remarks about how like, wow, this is an easy mission, we get easy experience doing this. So it's literally like the worst of MMORPG fetch quests. Yes, and it doesn't have the MMORPG. Obviously, in an MMO, there's like a player base, right? You can talk to like actual real people, so that kind of helps like the problem with those games. But it doesn't have that, and it also doesn't have the single player pacing, right? So it's just in this no man's land. Yeah, as I understand it, it's pretending to be an MMO, but it's not doing a particularly successful job of doing so. Yeah,
it's
and
not
it's
like
just
.hack.
Yeah, or Crosscode. Because in Crosscode, the thing I really love is clearly it's not an MMO, but like while you're playing Crosscode, random NPCs are darting around, they're doing things, they're acting like jackasses, they're jumping up and down on stuff. Like, it has the feel in the world like, oh, this is a MMORPG that we're existing in right now. and the NPCs that are computer controlled that aren't actually real people, they are at least behaving as people do when they're playing an MMO. So it creates that fantasy. This doesn't seem like it does that.
Yeah, it's just like I can't. I'm trying to think of like what's the positive aspects of the game. I think there's there was one labyrinth which was kind of interesting, which is where you go from floor 1 to floor 2, but it only happens once in the entire game. I think if they had more of that, there could be some variety, but they just don't. Like it just doesn't happen again, and I was just kind of forcing myself to get through the game. There's also the like level scaling aspect, which I mentioned. I mentioned to some staff, but I didn't put it in the review. But when you level up, you see the enemies level up in real time. So the progression itself is not even real.
Oh, okay. Because I read in your review that your companions level up alongside you, which gives you the illusion of a stronger party, and that actually makes complete sense. Because what's the point really? You might as well stay at level 1.
Your party members actually become like weaker, like effectively every time you level up. So by the end, they're actually worse than they are at the start because of how the scaling goes.
That's just weird character progression. So character progression here is just like, well, poorly done.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just poorly executed. Yeah,
that was pretty much my takeaway from your review. That the game it's just not really all that good. And from what I can tell, I've read some of the other Sword Art Online reviews that we have. I think Nathan, in the last one, we stopped reviewing them many years ago, primarily because we kept giving them crap scores. I think Nathan gave the last one a 41. So I was real hopeful that this game would pull out of that spiral, but it does not seem as if it did so.
Ironically, our score is actually higher than the last two for our online games we reviewed. I think one got in the 40s and one got a 51. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, we mentioned the visual design of the game, and like I made the joke that all PlayStation 3 games and Xbox 360 games are brown, and that doesn't follow up here. And you mentioned that it does, match the genuinely attractive anime aesthetic that is reminiscent of late PS3 era RPGs at a much higher resolution and detail. Unfortunately, it also seems that it lacks some other features, like, for example, a good soundtrack.
So I would say the soundtrack it's okay. Like it's basically there's nothing like bad about it. Like you won't.
It's a functional JRPG soundtrack.
Yeah, and it gets repetitive because there are only 2 floors in the game, right? So you go to town and you're just hearing the same music. You go to mission, you're hearing the same music because there's no variety in the areas. And that's even a problem with the graphics as well, because you're just seeing the same thing because there's no variety.
That is just, I still can't get over the fact there's only 2 frigging levels in the tower. It's irritating to me personally. I don't know why. It's just like, that's such a stupid, weird choice to make.
And obviously I couldn't mention this. Couldn't mention it in the review because, spoilers, but basically you can assume that the game doesn't really have a proper ending because, you're only on floor 2 by the time it ends. So,
is this set in a different continuity, or are the events of Sword Art Online like happening elsewhere in the world as this game is happening?
It is happening in parallel. So the main characters of the anime, like you hear about them and you can even recruit some of them. But they kind of do their own thing in parallel to the story, like quote unquote story in this game.
That approach can be interesting story-wise to fill in some of the blanks and some of the now the rest of the story sort of thing. But unfortunately, with 2 levels, it's a freaking 100-level tower. Like, that's nothing. That is literally scraping. You've gone up a flight of stairs. That's the entire gameplay progression.
Yeah, it never goes anywhere for the entire game. And the game itself is dozens of hours. So
What a weird choice. It does not take me a dozen hours to go up a single flight of stairs.
Like they keep trying to like story-wise, they tell you like maybe we shouldn't go to the next floor. Yeah, we're not strong enough. Let's go to the next town instead. Like they keep giving you these detours. Like
it's the second floor.
Yeah, instead of going to the next floor, we have to go collect these grapes, right? Like these are some very you don't literally collect grapes, but that's the analogy I'm using.
I guess, but it's kind of like being stuck in level 1-2 of Mario and being like, I don't know about these turtles yet. Better not go into level 2-1 or I might get screwed. Like that's not gameplay progression. It's certainly not story progression. It's just boring.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to go to the next floor because this NPC's like actual NPC's uncle was sick, so we gotta find some medicine first.
Okay. Also, I mean, unfortunately, that really does. I'm going to bring it back to Crosscode just because I love Crosscode, but also because in Crosscode, the side quests are always at least the interesting ones are always revolving around actual characters who are playing the game. Like, what possible motivation could you have to gather, I don't know, a bundle of wood for an NPC if you know that the NPC isn't actually real? Or if the sync uncle isn't real, like there's no motivation there. At least when you're playing at least when you're playing a game, and it's not a game in a game, it's a game. You are like, oh, I can buy into the idea that this NPC's uncle is sick and I need to save them. But like here, it's like the characters that you're playing know they're not real, so why even bother?
Yeah, I think so. Your party members, which are let's say like real in the game, right? Their thought process is you get more experience, right? From doing this quest, so you get stronger. But the problem is with the level scaling, you don't actually get stronger. So then like it doesn't make any sense. And what's weird is in the anime there is no level scaling, so it's not, I guess, like true to that philosophy.
No, you're completely right, Zach. If there's levels, if the enemies are leveling up along with you, the inherent logic of we can't go to the second floor because we're not strong enough yet doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
Yeah, and that's basically half the entire game. So,
that's such a shame. And also, it's apparently pretty buggy.
I encountered some bugs, especially your party members getting like stuck in terrain. Like they'll just like clip through walls, basically. And
so we're actually going back to we're going back to PS3 level pathfinding as well.
So yeah, so in the labyrinth, like your party member could just get stuck and it just be like you fighting everything. So like the partner system is pointless then.
Well, I tremendously appreciate you playing through this game because clearly with a score of 52, it was a challenge. It does seem like there are some things here to recommend the game. I mean, it is very attractive. If you're a fan of the series already, you might be interested in revisiting the game from a different, this world from a different perspective. But it sounds like the execution just wasn't there.
Yeah, it's a hard game to recommend, and I don't like giving low scores or being more critical. So hopefully, I can be more positive with the next game I review.
Totally understand. And
yeah,
not that I want to, I mean, this is something when I first read the review, I gotta say the last line, the best thing I can say about Echoes of Aincrad is that I no longer feel nostalgic for the PS3 generation. Whatever goodwill I had going in is completely drained. I came in thinking the era deserved another chance. I left reminded exactly why we moved on. Real good closing line there, Zach. That's a solid end of the review.
Yeah, I always try to think about it's opening and closing a review is kind of hard. Like I always try to think about how I can nail that closing passage.
Especially for a bad review, it's so easy with. I mean, I used to review theater in Toronto, and the temptation to write a bad review doesn't need to be a mean review, if you know what I mean. Like your review here, you gave it a 52 and it is not mean.
I try to focus on saying like I felt this, like at the end, because that makes it like less harsh than just like saying the game, is this, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good frame. The PS3 era framing of the review. It's a very strong frame of the review. And when I read it, I was like, yeah, good takeaway. Good last line, sums up basically exactly how you feel about the game. Totally buy it.
Yeah, and it's hard to balance like that because I didn't want to just talk about the PS3 the whole time. So I was thinking like how, I don't want to reference that the entire time, right? Because then it goes into a whole meta discussion about, which PS3 games are good, which are bad. Like that wasn't the focus. So I try to make it a little bit more general.
And we have features about that.
Yeah.
We do that. That's a retro encounter episode. That's not a review.
Yeah, exactly. So I kept it like simple, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so we had one very good game today and one not so good game today. And to close it off for the discussion question tonight, I want to bring up, I guess worse than both. This last 2 weeks actually, since the last episode, has been jam-packed with just absolutely terrible news from the gaming industry. And I wanted to bring up a few things and maybe get your thoughts on it. So first, let's focus on just an industry trend that I think is crap. And has actually very, very justly been getting crapped on Sony. So Sony has announced they're going to be ending physical PlayStation disc production starting in January of 2028. All future games will be distributed via direct digital downloads or retail boxes containing download codes. Pre-2028 releases will be unaffected. So this is going to have some astonishingly bad impact on the industry. First off, eliminating physical discs is going to completely bypass brick and mortar retailers. So while they can say, oh, no, they can still sell, the retail boxes containing the download code. Why bother? It's a red herring. It's not going to work. Why would you buy something from Best Buy when you could just go online and get it for the exact same price and you're getting the same product? You're not getting a physical disc. Sony is going to be basically eliminating all marketplace competition. They're going to be capturing like all of their margin on the games now because it's going to be entirely sold on the PlayStation Store. It will not lower game prices. It should, because there's going to be no disc production, no shipping, no inventory management anymore. But it's not going to change the digital pricing. In fact, over time, it's probably going to increase it because they've eliminated all competition. And thankfully, this has actually gotten a fair bit of customer backlash. Multiple petitions and just some really, really good social media trolling by like Kentucky Fried Chicken had a story where they said we're going to be eliminating physical chicken at our restaurants. Our chicken will be digital download only. I think chess.com had a fun one where they said we're going to be eliminating all digital chess and we will only be doing physical chess from now on. And a nice turnaround from that thing. Are either of you fans of physical game and media? And what do you think about this news?
So I would say I kind of saw the writing on the wall back in 2022. This wasn't like widely reported, but Sony actually closed their disc production facility in the United States in 2022. So they only have one disc production facility left in Austria. And what that means is if they have to ship their discs, right, that's more, it's more expensive right now, especially with the like inflation and all those factors. So that's a good, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying like that's a good, I'll just say excuse for them to say that like expenses are too high now, right? Because they have increased like over the past year, and they're I guess repurposing that facility to like make different products. And what that means is they're getting like, I don't think they can reverse this decision because they've already invested $30 million into repurposing their last this facility.
And ignoring that the the upside, monetarily speaking, is so significant for them that I just can't see them. We saw like the writing on the wall, Zach. You're absolutely right. The manufacturing closing is a big sign on the wall, but just the fact that they released a digital only console, and Xbox released a digital only console, like clearly they weren't just dipping their foot in the toe in the water; they were diving in full blast.
They may have had the Switch 2 as well.
Yeah, exactly. They may have had little pool floaties on, be like, no, we still make games, but like they're coming off. I hate this. I hate it. And I don't hate it for necessarily the reason I'm not in love with physical media. I haven't been for a long time. I like digital media. My problem with this is not the fact that physical media is going away. It's the fact that by doing this, they're killing all possible competition. They're killing all other potential storefronts. I'm actually shocked the EU hasn't gone after them about this. The EU released a statement saying that they can release the games however they want. And I'm like, haven't you guys been like going after Apple for like the last 10 years about the App Store? Like, it's weird to me that they're getting away with saying no one else can sell games but us, with the fig leaf of, we sell the digital, the code in box.
I will say the second, I guess, writing on the wall that I saw was, with Crimson Desert, if you have the disc, you can't play the game because like you have to download basically the entire game. It's basically like a game like key card, right? 007 First Light, same issue, right? Like if a disc is, I guess, leaked early, like you still can't play the game. You have to download the day one patch before it's playable. And then now Grand Theft Auto 6 is just a code in the box. So I think it's, from Sony's perspective, it's probably optimal timing to release the news.
It's done. Like that's the annoying thing. This isn't me being cynical. Like this is not getting rolled back. The march of technology continues forward, and unfortunately, the march of technology in the last decade of digital media in general has been digital. Like that's just where it's going. And I can't see a way to stop that. I'm just a little bit surprised that regulations haven't been put into place to mitigate the potential monopoly that is being created for these various storefronts. That's what I'm really concerned about. Because like if GameStop was allowed to create a digital storefront alongside the Sony, and they could sell Sony games on it, they could have their own sales. And the percentage that they get off of that is greater than, obviously they would get nothing from the Sony store. But like that to me would make me feel better about this news. But that doesn't seem to be where anything is going. That doesn't seem to be on the table. And that's weird to me, especially that the EU isn't doing anything about it. The fact that the United States isn't doing anything about it, I'm like, yeah, of course not. Look who's in charge. But like, generally the EU has some pretty decent customer protections.
I guess part of I'm just saying this from Sony's perspective, they lose money on each PS5 sold right now, especially with the insane RAM costs and AI basically eating everything. Like they are trying to, I guess, make a profit, like bottom line always needs to go up. So they're going to do what is in their best interest for that, like regardless of the consumers. Like if every single, I guess, physical player, like people who buy physical games, stops playing on PS5, Sony would think that's a positive. Like if you look at their stock, it increased overall. I'm not sure how it is today, but it increased after the announcement because from the shareholder perspective, they think that's a good idea. But even if it's bad for consumers.
Oh, their publicity is bad, but like especially with what we're about to talk about, which is Xbox imploding in on itself, like what's the competition? Like what's the downside of announcing this right now? Audra, do you collect physical media?
Do have physical media, but I also like digital too. So it's just it's a quagmire.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is, in my mind, for years and years, companies were going on about piracy. And I think that this is going to encourage a lot more piracy, but I also at the exact same time think that the difference of their profit margins, eliminating physical game media and selling it directly from the PS Store, is going to more than make up for the loss. That's not saying they won't cry about it like little babies, but it'll more than make up for the loss. Okay, speaking about crying like little babies, let's talk about Xbox. So the new CEO, Asher Sharma, announced there was an internal staff memo. I don't know if it was leaked or not. I'm assuming it's an internal one. I think it was leaked in the same way that, like, you know, they didn't want this information to get out. No, don't read that. She announced that the profit margins are 3 to 10 times lower than their competitors due to stagnated Game Pass growth, severe hardware supply crisis, which the second one I actually do buy. So first off, the price of the consoles are getting driven up in August. That's not unique. Everyone has done it. And in their defense, not that I want to defend these companies, but it's like, yeah, RAM is nuts right now. Even storage is going up in price. Like, those margins are shrinking just because the actual components are vanishing and getting more expensive. The big news is that there are massive workforce reductions. So the Xbox division is cutting 3,200 employees, so about 20% of its workforce. Some of it occurred a couple weeks ago, about half, and the other half are going to be slated for elimination throughout fiscal year 2027. More bad news is that Microsoft is parting ways with many of the first-party developers that they purchased over the last 6 years since the pandemic. So Compulsion Games, which is Canadian, Double Fine Productions, famously, Ninja Theory, Undead Labs, and Arcane Lion, which Arcane France. There was rumors that they were going to be closing all of them. Thank God that didn't happen. They are either spinning off to be independent developers again, or they are being sold to third-party management. Like Arcane Lion right now is entered into legal consultation with its local works council to review its options. So it's not a silver lining at all, because so many people have lost their jobs, but I am so frigging relieved that these companies are not just being folded and everyone being fired and those IPs being filed away to be used like 10 years in the future for whatever the AI equivalent of mobile games is then. And in terms of post-layoff controversy, something that happened 2 days ago in a spectacularly short-sighted scene of PR, Asha Sharma was appointed by the U.S. Federal Reserve to co-lead a new productivity and jobs task force investigating the impact of AI on the labor market. And it's like, okay, that's a little frickin' tone deaf right now. I'm shocked that you took it, but whatever. Unlike the Sony news, where you can be like, it's an interesting discussion. This is an interesting discussion. This is just, well, shit.
You know, it's pretty depressing that they're laying off this many people, but like half of them are like laid off immediately, right? So if you're an employee in like at Xbox right now, there's a possibility that you could be like one of the other half, right? Like, that's terrible for job security.
I mean, it's not just terrible for job security. It's if they've been cutting, I don't know what obviously the numbers aren't available, but if they've cut 1,600 jobs thus far, and there is crossover between the job experience, the experience of those 1,600 jobs and the 1,600 that are coming, those 1,600 other people are going to be on the job market for longer, and they're going to be picking up whatever few available jobs there are in comparison to whatever's left over when you get fired in a few months.
Yeah, and I don't know how, if I was one of those employees, right? I don't know how productive I will be if I'm constantly worried about being laid off every single day, because they're laying off the other half of their project number 3,200 over the next fiscal year.
Yeah, it wouldn't make me be very motivated.
I really need to underline that I am not defending her, because I'm not. But putting this entirely at the feet of Asha Sharma is ridiculous. If anyone is doing that, you are completely ignoring the last 10 years of the industry and the frankly astonishingly stupid decisions and mismanagement the mismanagement of that Microsoft has been handling with the Xbox brand for a decade now. Like, yeah, she came in and she based on this was probably a directive straight from Microsoft where she had to fire the people. I suspect that she didn't fight it very hard, but like, this isn't her fault. She's the guillotine. But like, the reality is it was the choices made over the last 10 years. Some of the stories that have been coming out about the directives that Microsoft was giving some of these developers that they picked up. And it's just like, you shake your head at it, not even in retrospect. Like, you shake your head, even if it was at the time. They were doing what they were told they needed to do, and they're getting punished for it. So frankly speaking, Microsoft getting absolute shit publicity right now is incredibly well-deserved. This isn't, like I said, I don't find this to be an interesting conversation. I find this to be a extraordinarily depressing conversation. The only thing I can hope for, this is not a silver lining, is that many of those 1,600 people who are fired and the 1,600 that are to come will hopefully find jobs with companies that treat them better. Maybe some of them might go out, swing independent, start developing their own games, and create more competition in the industry. Some of which obviously won't work out, some of which might. But yeah, that's not a silver lining. That's just hopeful. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrible news. I hate it. I'm not even going to bother trying to transition this into a clever spin for the store, but just terrible news. And to anyone out there who is listening, I mean, obviously pay with your wallets, but the reality is it's getting harder and harder to pay with your wallets because of, limited options essentially at this point. So just pay attention to the news. Who knows? Someday something is going to break and it's not going to be able to get fixed. And that's going to be an interesting and scary day. In the meantime, if you're looking for a way to support us here at RPG Fan, you can do so by visiting our store at www.rpgfan.com/shop. There are other ways to support us here at RPG Fan. You can check out our other podcasts. You are currently listening to Random Encounter. Last week, we talked about Deltarune Chapter 5 and the Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. I'm going to wait until Deltarune is completely out in order to play it. Adventures of Elliot, though, is calling to me because it looks right up my alley. It looks like a real good comfort game. We also have Retro Encounter, and they just finished a two-parter of the 2005 action RPG Xanadu Next, which was a Windows and N-Gage exclusive. That's a weird thing.
It's so fun, though.
It's so fun?
Yes.
Yeah. What'd you play it on?
Just my laptop, actually.
Oh, you didn't deke your N-Gage out of a box somewhere in the back of your closet? Oh, God. 2005 was a weird timing. God, I miss it. Not even in a nostalgia way. We also, Rhythm Encounter. Rhythm Encounter is still out there. It's still on hiatus. There might be new episodes coming out soon, so pay attention to that. We'll keep you informed about that, obviously. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do so at podcast@rpgfan.com. If you have any ideas for discussion questions or future episode themes or anything you'd like us to address, fire me off a message. If you'd like to send me an email directly, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com, and you can also find me at johnologan.bluesky.social. Audra, where can we find you online?
You can find me on email at audrab@rpgfan.com.
Cool. And Zach?
You can find me on just rpgfan.com. You can read my reviews.
Cool. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends to help us get the word out there. And you can also rate us on iTunes or your other podcast player of choice. Zach, Audra, thank you very much for joining me tonight, for playing through this game. Audra, really glad you enjoyed yours. Zach, thank you for getting through it. I really hope that the next game that you get is a delightful time that thrills you to no end.
Me too.
Thanks for...
I mean, technically, I have something to say about that because I am the review manager. But then again, you never know. Something that's highly anticipated might not be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened a few times.
It certainly has, especially the last few years. And everyone out there joining us, thank you very much. And whatever you're playing, have fun.